let's talk about a nutrient that most people have never even heard of, yet it's quietly doing one of the most important jobs in your body. Vitamin K2 is fundamentally different from vitamin K1, which you've probably heard about in relation to blood clotting and leafy greens. K2 has an entirely separate function that's absolutely critical for your long-term health, and here's the concerning part. The modern Western diet is severely deficient in it. Think of K2 as calcium's traffic director. You consume calcium for strong bones, right? But here's the problem. Calcium doesn't automatically know where to go. Without adequate K2, that calcium can end up depositing in your arteries instead of your bones. K2 activates two crucial proteins in your body. The first is osteocalcin, which essentially pulls calcium into your bones and teeth where you actually want it. The second is matrix GLA protein, which does the opposite job in your arteries, actively removing calcium deposits that could contribute to cardiovascular disease. This is a pretty sophisticated system, and it completely falls apart when you don't have enough K2. Now, where do you actually find this vitamin? This is where things get interesting and frankly a bit challenging. The absolute highest source is natto, which is fermented soybeans popular in Japan. One serving gives you more K2 than most people get in a week. The catch? Natto is an extremely acquired taste with a slimy texture and pungent smell that most Westerners find off-putting. If you can stomach it, fantastic, but let's be realistic about other options. Hard cheeses, particularly aged varieties like Gouda and Brie, contain decent amounts of K2. The bacteria that age the cheese actually produce the vitamin during fermentation. Egg yolks from pastured chickens have some K2, though significantly less than eggs from factory farm chickens fed grain-only diets. Grass-fed butter and dairy also contain K2, while grain-fed animal products have almost none. You're starting to see the pattern here. Traditional food preparation methods and traditional animal farming naturally provided K2, while modern industrial food production has essentially stripped it from our diets. This brings us to what's called the calcium paradox. We have an entire population taking calcium supplements for bone health, often at their doctor's recommendation. But if you're supplementing calcium without adequate vitamin D to help absorb it and vitamin K2 to direct it properly, you might actually be doing more harm than good. That calcium could be strengthening your arterial walls in exactly the wrong way, contributing to cardiovascular disease while your bones remain weak. This isn't just theoretical. We're seeing this play out in population studies. For most people, supplementation makes sense here. The -7 Malawian Quachas form of K2, which comes from natto, has a longer half-life in your body than the -4 Malawian Quachas form, meaning it stays active longer. Typical supplemental doses range from 100 to 200 micrograms daily. Because it's fat-soluble, take it with a meal that contains some fat for proper absorption. The cardiovascular implications are significant. Arterial calcification is a major contributor to heart disease, and animal studies have shown that K2 can actually reverse existing arterial calcification, not just prevent new deposits. Human observational studies consistently show associations between higher K2 intake and reduced cardiovascular disease risk. European populations that consume more aged cheese have better cardiovascular outcomes, and this K2 connection might be part of the explanation. There's one major caution. If you're on warfarin or other blood thinners, vitamin K affects the medication's mechanism of action. Traditionally, doctors told warfarin patients to avoid all vitamin K. However, newer thinking suggests that consistent K2 intake with appropriate warfarin dose adjustment might actually be beneficial. This absolutely requires close physician supervision and monitoring, so never start K2 supplementation on your own if you're on blood thinners. The geographic and dietary patterns are striking. Traditional diets in cultures that valued fermented foods and grass-fed animal products naturally provided adequate K2. Modern processed food diets, grain-fed livestock, and our abandonment of traditional fermentation practices have created a widespread deficiency that most people don't even know exists. You can't feel a K2 deficiency the way you might feel fatigue from iron deficiency. It works silently over decades, directing calcium traffic throughout your body. So here's the practical takeaway. If you enjoy aged cheeses, eat them regularly. If you're adventurous, try natto. Choose grass-fed dairy and pastured eggs when possible. And strongly consider a K2 supplement, particularly if you're taking calcium or vitamin D, or if you're concerned about bone or cardiovascular health. This is one of those nutrients where supplementation isn't about chasing optimal health. It's about correcting a genuine widespread deficiency that the modern food system has created. The combination of calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2 working together represents a more complete approach to skeletal and cardiovascular health than calcium alone could ever provide.